This is the Homecoming with the Downing Brothers podcast, where we talk about real estate, business, and financial literacy. They live by the motto, dream, plan, execute. Your host, Anthony and Anton Downing.
Welcome to Homecoming with the Downing Brothers. This is Anthony.
And this is Anton.
And we have a guest today. We always have a guest, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so today we have the president of United Bank. Not just Chicago, but like branches all over the city. We have Herrin Malon, president of United Bank. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys.
No doubt. Like so let's tell them how this actually happened. This all happened because we went to the same holiday party.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Chesterfield Association, which is a community association. It's like basically almost like a collection of block clubs for this whole neighborhood. Had a holiday party at Thule Park, which is my grandmother lives directly across the street from, and we got an invitation, and we try to support these community events. And we just happened to both show up at the event. And we were sitting next to each other because all the tables was taken up. We had to let all the senior citizens and all the children and everyone sit. So we ended up just standing next to each other, and when we started talking, and I had no clue that you were president of United Bank. So that was interesting in itself.
I'm sure.
You were just another guy standing there like me.
Yeah.
I thought,
Now, do you normally call it United Bank, or is it United for Fidelity?
Yeah, it gets called a lot of things. United Fidelity is the official, but we get United Bank all the time. We get Fidelity. People come with like the Fidelity investment check, so we get all type of stuff. It just, but United Fidelity is officially who I get a paycheck from, yes.
Okay.
All right, cool. All right, well, so let's jump into it. I mean, this is Homecoming with the Downer Brothers, so we always have to find out, what's your hometown? Like, where are you from? And, what did you learn about real estate or business or financial literacy when you were growing up?
Loaded question. So hometown, Chicago, Inglewood, baby. I'm proud of that.
Right.
South
Side, right? And it was a component that made me who I am. So I can never forget that. So I appreciate the question, as far as where it all started, how it started. Let's see, financial literacy, banking. When I go back, I just wanted to be successful. It wasn't really a field or an industry or something like that. True story, my uncle, who was a catalyst in my upbringing, I just remember every day when he left, he had on a shirt and tie and had a briefcase. And couldn't tell you what he did. At that time, it didn't even matter. But I was like, man, when I grow up, that's what I want. I want to dress like that every day. And that was a silent motivator through all of this, right?
Right.
Going back to financial literacy, banking, it just happened. I was living in Indianapolis, and a lot of my guys back here were in the mortgage world, and that's when camera phones, I'm going to date myself a little bit, but that's when the camera phones first came out, and they were sending pictures of these checks, like $5, $6, $7,000. I was like, what? Right? And I was in the rent-a-car world, and it was good, but I wanted in. I was like, you're doing less work and making 3 times as much as I am. So that's kind of what prompted me to shift into the banking or that world, and I've been having fun ever since. That was 04.
04. Yeah. So I mean, did you go? Where did you go to school, or what did you? What kind of education did you have? Is there something specific that you had to do in order to qualify to walk into this banking world?
Wow. Experience. And keep in mind, when we talk about business, I told you I'm an Inglewood baby, so it may have been a different type of business.
Right.
But it's business, right? It's similar concepts, ironically. And let's see. When I first started, like I said, I was in the rent-a-car world, and I was actually the airport manager for this rent-a-car company out in Indianapolis. And I think being able to run that successfully for as long as I did, when I came into the banking world, to run one branch and 5 employees, when I had 3 counters and different categories of employees with 27. This, no offense to the industry, this was easy. So that's kind of how it started. The reputation I had built in business kind of bridged the gap going into the financial industry.
And what you started off with United?
No, it's been a road. I started off with Charter One. Charter One Bank.
Okay.
Charter One Bank gave me my first branch.
Okay, Charter One, they got bought out. What, a couple
few
years
times,
ago?
yeah. They're pretty strong still on the East Coast, but Midwest they're done. They sold off all of those. Yeah.
Okay.
I think Northern Island wasn't that the Charter One Pavilion?
Charter One Pavilion, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they changed the sign. I mean, I guess because they left.
Right.
All right. So you had. Let's revisit your uncle though. I mean, he's dressing up every day. Do you? What is that? Did you ever learn what he did?
Oh yeah,
what
he was
do?
a computer guy. He's like a software engineer entity downtown and all of that. So yeah, it was in computers and programming and stuff like that. Which once I found out he did that, I tried to be a programmer. I went to school for programming. I was like, yeah, no, this is awful.
No, hey, you know what? You got to do what makes you happy.
That's right.
Otherwise, you're not gonna be in it very long.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. You know, try to do something you're passionate about.
Find something I can still dress up, but stay away from that type of computer stuff.
Right. So, all right. So you started Charter One, and then what happens from there?
So Charter One, like I said, I walked in the door as a branch manager at Charter One. Then Charter One got bought out. You know, as I evolved, the branches get bigger, more responsibility. The reason I came to United Fidelity was because they were opening a location, and all the stuff that I've done, I've never opened a branch. So that's just beyond intriguing to start something from scratch and let it grow. And I think I'm pretty good at what I do. So I was like, man, that's my next obstacle. And opened one in the suburb of Indianapolis. That went good. And they were like, hey, you want to go home and oversee Chicago? I said, you gonna pay me to do that? Yes, of course I'll go back home.
And when you say oversee Chicago, are we talking about like when they brought you to Chicago, it was to oversee more than one branch? Or were you opening a branch in Chicago?
Chicago was an acquisition. So United Fidelity acquired Highland Community Bank. Highland was huge on the South Side, huge in our community, all of that. And they definitely were a staple and did a lot of positive stuff. Like many, they had some struggles that they couldn't overcome. So similar mindset with United Fidelity, community bank, entrenched, and that's what made the acquisition and transition logical and smooth.
Okay. All right, cool. And so that leads you to...
That leads me to 2 branches here.
Okay.
And we it's interesting. And when I listen to you guys talk about how your brand is growing, right? I think about the obstacles and challenges that we had when United Fidelity took over, because as I go out in the street and we say, hey, we do this, this, and this, they're like, who? Who are you? Right. And never heard of this bank. So I truly was starting from scratch in that aspect because nobody knew who we were. All right, so we get that, we grow that. Then all of a sudden I get this branch in St. Elmo, Illinois, which is like 3 and some change hours from here, right outside of Effingham. That goes pretty good.
And that's United Bank also.
That's United, yeah. They acquired an institution down there, and I kind of went in and had to help the transition into doing things the United Fidelity way, because those banks didn't succeed, and so we had to change the culture a little bit too. So I'm sure
you change the culture by showing up, period.
Yeah.
It's like, brother man, where you come from?
Not a lot of diversity down there, yeah, no doubt. And ironically though, the town or the city of St. Elmo truly embraced me. And I had not a single issue and or problem. I remember, I don't know if I had it then. I was down there doing something, and I had to give a presentation to the library board about why they should stay with us. And it was just crazy. So I had people from the bank that were with me, the employees from the location down there, and the board introduces themselves, and it was, like I said, no diversity there at all. And so finally I'm the last person to get introduced. And it's just total silence. I said, well, I guess that's my cue, right? Because everybody's just all eyes. I'm like, okay. And did the presentation. And like a week later, one of the young ladies from down there called, and she was like, man, they're leaving. We didn't get it. We're losing the account. I'm like, are you serious? She's like, no, I'm just kidding. They loved it, and they said they're not going nowhere.
That's what's up.
I said, okay.
Threw you the curveball.
Threw me the curve. And I said,
all right, that's what's up.
If we can do that, then we can definitely be impactful, here at home.
Okay.
Yeah. Last but not least came Colorado, so I've got 2 branches in Colorado now. So,
well, wait, how does that work though? I mean, so you got your branches in Chicago and then downstate Illinois, St. Elmo, and then you got Denver,
Colorado. Yeah.
So what? How often you go out there?
I was just out there. Probably quarterly is always the goal, just to support, check in, touch base, make sure that things are flowing the way they should be.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So you know what? I want to go into where you want to. I defer to my brother. Where you want to go with this?
Well,
nice.
Since we're already talking about your bank, I wanted to do my segment, definition of the day.
You mean Anton's definition of the day?
Absolutely. So when we come back from this break, we will do the definition of the day. All right, we're back. So Anton's definition of the day is community bank. A community bank is a depository institution that is typically locally owned and operated. Community banks tend to focus on the needs of the businesses and families where the bank holds branches and offices. Lending decisions are made by people who understand the local needs of families, businesses, and farmers.
All right.
So the reason why I brought this up is because a lot of us have accounts with Chase and Bank of America and all these huge institutions. But we often find with the community banks, they have better interest rates. They make their decisions based off of the people, actually knowing the people, things like that. So how does it work for your bank?
Well, I guess go back. I agree with that definition too, as far as community bank. Mm-hmm. Let's see. I believe everybody has a niche, and I never, as we call it, bank bash, and I think the big guys serve a purpose too. When it comes to technology, most of them are, some of them, I shouldn't say most, there's a couple of them that are like light years ahead of a lot of things, right? So technology-wise, the Chases of the world, they do a lot, and they kind of set the mark or the standard when it comes to technology. So no knock, but we take a lot of pride on the customer service stand of that. And without a customer, no customer coming through the door, that means no check, and we're not able to give a service because there's no one to service. Mm-hmm. So customer service is priority number one, and not just myself, but as a unit or as a team, we take a lot of pride in that, and that kind of governs the products that we put out too. So the best example I'll give you is our Block Club account. So in the bank's in the 21st Ward, and we have a very strong relationship with the ward itself. And so many of the residents of the 21st Ward were complaining at Block Club meetings about banking. We have nowhere to put our money. Mm-hmm. We never thought about that, right? Mm-hmm. So we created a Block Club account that's no monthly service charge, no minimum balance, and we made it pretty easy to access, to open, right? We don't need as much documentation as you would for a normal business account. Mm-hmm. So we simplified that process, but that's the difference. That's the mark we try to set for ourselves, is to be impactful in the community. And again, going back to your definition, we think that that's the job of a community bank.
So this Block Club account, this is specifically for people who have formed a Block Club. They throw fundraisers. They have this money that they use to beautify their block in the summer, but they need to store the money until they're ready to use the money. Mm-hmm. But they didn't necessarily know where to go to form a business account, because it's not a traditional business. They just need somewhere to put this money.
It's a Block Club. They don't even think of it as a business. Most don't know that you have to get certified. In a perfect world, you get certified with the city too. It's just a few things that we try to inform, because so much of what we do is teaching. So just providing that information and giving them a home or an avenue to do the things that they want to do. And everybody wants to be at the Block Club party. So
right. Can you give us a list of the different types of bank services or loans that United Bank as a community bank provides?
Sure. And when we talk about loans, like I say, we take a lot of pride in home mortgage lending. We do commercial lending too, and we're pretty good at that. We're picky, but on the residential mortgage side, we do a lot, and we created a program or a product that is specific to being impactful in our community. So the reason, like the first time we were at Chesterfield, we had a table because we're talking about our New Hope mortgage program. That's the flagship. That's all over everything. It's on radio. It's awesome, honestly, because it allows us to impact the neighborhoods that we service. So 680 credit score, right? So I need you to pay your bills. I'm not saying you have to be 800, but 680 we thought was a middle of the road number, and decent debt to income ratio, money in versus out, and all that kind of stuff. And if you're in one of the census tracts that we're targeting, we can give you interest rates in the twos. And that's
in the twos.
And I don't.
That is pretty low.
And that's real, because like right now, 3.5 is kind of like the average right now, right?
I'll take that.
For an interest rate on a mortgage.
And so you're saying like 2.7 or something like that?
It changes daily, but this morning it was 2.6, I believe, on a 30 and 2.1 on a 15.
Okay,
no, that is pretty good.
So for all the homies that are listening out there, why does it matter why are we so energetic when we hear 2.6 or 2.7 compared to a 3.5 percentage interest rate?
So rate determines
how much of a difference is that for them? They want to know how much is of a difference on a mortgage payment, on a monthly mortgage payment is that?
Let's go. So off the top of my head, so interest rate determines payment. There are two ways it's impactful. It's right now, which is payment, and it's long run, which is interest that's paid over the life of the loan. So the lower the rate, the lower the payment, the lower the interest. And if you're in a position, let's take off the top of my head, 100,000, 30 years at 2.5 is probably $500 some odd dollars, principal and interest
Per month.
All right. 3.5, $650. As the interest rate goes
up. So you're talking
up,
about $150 difference between
monthly.
like a 2.7 interest rate and a 3.5 interest rate.
3.5, 4, yeah. And that's impactful. Like I say, again, it's impactful today because that's a 150 plus that you can have in your pocket. And over the course of the loan, if you amortize it all the way out and you keep it the duration, you're going to save yourself tens of thousands of dollars.
Right.
In interest.
Because you got to think long term too.
Yeah.
Short term, it's like, okay, now I have a $500 mortgage versus having a $650 mortgage. Or if we want to increase those, let's say twice as much, a $200,000 mortgage. Now we're talking about a $1,000 mortgage at 2.7% versus $1,200 at 3.5.
This is a great interest rate. My last 3 flat, the interest rate was a 4.0.
Yeah, which at the time we was like, oh, that's great.
That's great.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, because it's going to vary between commercial or rental versus primary residence.
Right.
That's always going to be always going to be a little bit higher when it comes to rental properties or owner occupied or non. So if I buy a 2 flat and I live in it, I can get you a better rate as opposed to buying a 2 flat just for rental purposes.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
right.
Throw that out there.
For all the homies out there, always go into this multi-unit residential situation trying to make sure that you're owner-occupied, right?
That's right.
And this is all on paper. We're talking about being official and legit.
That's right.
If you want the best interest rate and you want the lower monthly payment,
intent to occupy. That's what we're looking for. The word,
intent to occupy.
Right.
Everybody listening out there, rewind if you're not following. Intent to occupy that 2, 3, or 4 unit multi-unit that you're getting, because it will save you a ton of money.
It will, no doubt. And when I pull up the rates for today, it's 2.5 on the 30 and 2.125 on the 15, which is, like I said, we've priced it. That particular product, we've priced it so that that's not a money maker for us. So that's not we're a for-profit institution,
right?
But that's not knocking down the doors as far as revenue. That's truly designed to satisfy, federal obligation and for us to be impactful in the community. Period.
Right.
Period.
Right.
That's a big deal.
Are there any other types of loan? What else can we come to United Bank to do?
I just want to say this also. When you are a customer looking to get a 2 flat, a 3 unit, 4 unit, whatever it is, I always tell them that you have the intent to live there. I mean, that's all you have to do. It's funny because we were talking to our god sister, Ginger. She came to one of our seminars, and we were talking about it, and she was like, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to live there. I said, well, you just need to make the intent
All right. Hey, you intend to live there. That's the end of the story. All right, now.
One more thing. We don't have like a team that goes and checks to see if you live there after we've closed the loan. Just putting that out there.
All right,
I figured that.
Okay.
Is everyone following? You intend to live there. End of story.
Get the good interest rate.
Get the good interest rate. All right. Moving on.
Go back. Come
Is
on.
there anything else that people in the community? I mean, it's a community bank. What else can we come there to do? I mean, what other services are? What other loans are there? People don't. I feel like this. Like people don't know why. Some people don't know why the bank is even important. I mean, you got all these cash checking places and all that kind of stuff. People who don't even have bank accounts, and then when you don't have a bank account, you can't get a home loan. I mean, there's a series of things that happens when you aren't engaged with the bank. And so what? So what's the bank there doing that gets people on track?
Okay, so that's a lot. You gave me a lot, so I'm gonna go. Let's go. So, when I talk about loan types, first thing you mentioned was loan types. We have 96 different loan types, right? So New Hope, while it's the flagship, it's bells and whistles, it's Cadillac, it's all of this. Everybody doesn't qualify for that. So we can do a loan with a score now as low as 580, right?
Okay.
It won't be at 2.5%.
No, it won't.
Right? But
Are we talking about FHA or is this a conventional loan?
normally it'll be FHA, right?
Okay.
I can't tell you last time I saw one with that in that range that was conventional. So FHA, pros and cons to FHA. We're talking rate, we're talking stuff like that.
Private mortgage insurance.
Private mortgage insurance, pros and cons.
Right.
I don't know. I'm just saying FHA has always been my friend.
No doubt. Every situation is different.
Okay.
So there's no one answer to that. So every situation is different. But if I've got 96 different loan types, and now it's a matter of me determining which bucket you fall in. Is it a lower credit bucket? Is it a higher DTI bucket? Is it grade A and non-new
What's
hope?
DTI?
Debt to income ratio.
Debt to income ratio, homies. We're talking about debt to income ratio. That means how much debt you have compared to the income that you're bringing in.
Correct.
How much of your paycheck you're spending on your expenses. And that's important. That's the debt to income ratio.
And let me just, since you said that, let me add that debt that's on your credit report. I'm not factoring in the light bill. I don't care about T-Mobile and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, what about Fannie Mae, though? Everybody's worried about the student loans.
Yeah, and they've changed that through the years too. But so that is a factor. Again, every situation is different as far as deferment and all kind of things like that you can do. There are ways you can consolidate them, put them into one, which impacts that payment too. So you've got a few options. But like I say, every situation is different. You'll never get one answer out of me in regards to that.
These 96 loans, though, are these all home-related loans, or are you talking about some other loans?
Yes, home-related loans.
Are there any other loans that you guys provide?
Yeah, we do commercial, we do auto loans, we do personal loans. We're a full-service institution.
Well, walk them through the auto loan. How does that work?
I'm not telling you.
because I guess what I'm saying is I think a lot of people, they go to the dealership and they may just the dealership says, oh yeah, we already got a bank in-house, you could just get it with us. Would it be advantageous to find out how much the car costs? Okay, the car is $20,000 and then come to you to go to United Bank to see if you got a better rate than they do at the car lot.
So I always try to give the power to the customer. So it's a heck of a lot easier for you to walk in here and say, hey, I'm approved for this dollar amount and I've already got financing, as opposed to allowing them to have the leverage and say that, I can get you in here where my loan is no more than 72 months. Like I say, it's dealer loans that'll put you in the car for 84 months. And get you the payment. If you say, hey, look, I want to pay $350 a month, $350 for 84 months, sure, we'll do that for you.
Oh, man,
that's a lot of money on interest.
And again, that's no knock on anybody. But you have more ability and more leverage and power when same thing with a home loan. When realtor wants to see a pre-approval letter. So I always suggest that you go into the bank to see what you would qualify for before you take the leap to try to make a major purchase like that.
Including, you talking about not just homes, but
home,
but
car,
the car.
Yeah, both.
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
Both are still. Property is obviously number one, but car can be a very close second. Some of these cars, so.
All right, so home and car are like the two major loans. Are there any other loans that you can go to United Bank for?
Sure. So, personal loan, we can talk about secured loans. So if you in the process of rebuilding or building or establishing anything like that, as far as credit goes, and you say, hey, look, it's tax return time. I've got $1,000. We'll give you a loan on your $1,000, and we report to the bureau. So we can set it up so it's auto debit. You don't. So now in 12 months, when you had a 580, 12 months of on-time payments from a loan was going to help boost that score. So now in 12 months, you've got a 50-point impact on your score, which gives you more buying power. So most
what are
things
they
are
doing?
impressive.
They're putting that $1,000 into a bank account at your bank, and then it'll go transfer over to that loan.
So yes, you got a few options. Yes, it's going to be at our bank. Yes. So right, you take your money, we put it in a CD for 12 months, and it can just sit there. You can take the money. We can give you a loan on your money. There are a number of different ways to do it, but the bottom line is we're giving you a loan on your money, and you're just making payments to yourself, which impacts your credit, especially, like I said, when you're rebuilding. Okay, I've fixed all the bad stuff, bad choices here and there. Nobody's perfect. So I fixed all that stuff, but I need to reestablish. And I don't want a credit card. Okay, no problem. We'll use your money and create a loan for you and create a payment history for yourself. And automatic.
That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, and I feel like that's what at the essence of having a community bank is to meet people where they are, to get them in a better credit situation and to help them raise the capital that they need to be able to buy a home, a car. Are there any business loans?
We're not an SBA lender, but I can't tell you how many conversations we've had in helping preparation of business plans or putting individuals in a better position to seek financing, be it with us or not. Because again, so much of it is about education, right? So if you as we say, ignorant to the fact, it's not the fact that you don't want to know, you just don't know, right? So much of what we do, not just in lending, just period, is educating the customer. Because as we empower you, as we give you the knowledge you need, that puts you in a better position of attaining the stuff that you're looking to do.
Right. All right. So you know what? I think this will lead us to today's homecoming event. And so today's homecoming event, let's see what I found out. This comes from Crane Chicago Business. A Wisconsin investor drops $18 million on South Shore Apartments. The deal shows how the rising South Shore apartment market is allowing investors to buy, renovate, and then sell buildings at much higher prices than they paid for the properties. A Wisconsin venture has paid $18.4 million for a trio of apartment buildings in South Shore, a sign that out-of-town investors haven't lost their appetite for the neighborhood. A Neenah-based venture led by investor Trinity Flood has acquired the 208-unit portfolio from New York-based DAX Real Estate, according to Kaiser Group, the Chicago brokerage that arranged the sale. The deal shows that rising South Shore apartment market is allowing investors to buy, renovate, and then sell buildings at much higher prices. And Flood's $18.4 million price for the three buildings is 60% higher than the $11.5 million that DAX paid for them about 2 years ago. So DAX just made a $7 million profit on this. So basically, South Shore is hot. And I think, and if you're in Chicago and you're in banking,
believe me, I mean, I live on South Shore Drive. I'm watching it happen.
Yeah. I mean, when you're driving through South Shore, do you see renovations? What are you seeing over there in South Shore?
You know what? For there to be 50-unit, 100-unit, 28-unit apartment buildings on South Shore Drive facing the lake, and seeing them boarded up, I was like, yeah, there's about to be a flood of speculation coming now.
Yeah. So from your perspective, I mean, you've been watching and listening to the news, and I know you probably even been at some meetings about this. What's going on in South Shore, and why are these investors coming?
I guess the better answer is why not. So to your point, it's prime property. It's a prime location. Anything that's lakefront related already just raises the bar up a little bit, and it's been disinvested for a while, so you have an opportunity to come in and revamp and revitalize an area, paying smaller amounts for it, and you see the type of return that they receive
in 2 years.
$7
million profit.
That's unbelievable. right? So I guess, again, why not? Why not take the time and use those resources to invest in an area that's giving you that type of return?
Right.
You got to think, in 2 years, that the first year was renovation.
Yeah.
It takes a year.
Yeah.
Depending on how many units is in there, it probably took 18 months, and they turned it right around
Just to get it right.
put it right back on the market.
Yep.
Right. So right now, for all the homies that are listening out there, so we're talking about South Shore on the south side of Chicago, which is lakefront property on the south side. The north side is saturated. All the lakefront property that's from downtown, north of downtown, up all the way up to Evanston, which is a suburb, in Skokie, that's saturated. It's all
full.
developed.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is South Shore on the south side, which is lakefront property
Which is where Michelle Obama grew up, mind you.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a neighborhood that gives you everything that you get on the north side, but for many political, socioeconomic factors, wasn't developed.
Right.
So the thing is, I want to talk to all the homies about, and this is whether you're from Chicago or you're from out of town. You need to come and evaluate, and if you have an opportunity to buy property in South Shore and the neighboring neighborhoods, like, well, let's not just South Shore, let's say Woodlawn, Chatham has a housing stock,
South Chicago.
South Chicago.
South Chicago. Yeah.
Okay, so these neighborhoods have thousands of properties and opportunities, and as you hear people say all the time, you better get your piece of the pie. You know, and going to United Bank is where you might start, so that you can actually get the home loan, a residential home loan, to be able to get yourself a 3 or 4 unit apartment building in South Shore. And so, and it's not the 20 unit, 30 unit building, but it's still an opportunity for you to buy and renovate below market value, and then sit there and build your equity.
That's right.
And when we're referring to equity, we're talking about the value of that property above and beyond what you owe on a mortgage for that property. Right? So there's an opportunity. You don't have to sit there and say, okay, this is what the millionaires are doing. No, there's an opportunity for you. And that's why we have this podcast, to educate you all, give you that financial literacy, make you aware, and get you access. Awareness is you listening to this podcast. Access is you walking into United Bank and saying that I am in position because I have a 680 credit score to buy a 3 or 4 unit apartment building in this very place that we're talking about in the homecoming events, South Shore.
Even if you don't have the credit score, and that was what was outlined earlier in this episode, if you want to rewind it, is that they have products like a CD that you can use to boost your credit score over the course of the year.
It's a process.
A lot of times, man, I see people get their tax refund, because we're coming. This episode is coming out in February,
right.
And I'm gonna tell you, if it's February, that means you probably just got your refund check. If you just got your refund check before you go to the Bahamas, before you head down south somewhere, think about using that to put as a down payment on a 3 unit, 4 unit apartment building.
Yeah, you know what? You just made a very valid point. How many times do we see people get that refund check and they go on vacation or they buy a car? Not understanding or knowing that if they have their credit in position and they're sitting on $5,000 to $10,000 cash, that they're literally in a position. If you have 680 and you have somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000, depending on the cost of the apartment building that you're trying to buy, you are currently in position not to go on vacation, not to buy a car, but to actually buy a 3 or 4 unit apartment building in the city of Chicago.
Understand something. If you can afford, and I know a lot of y'all listening are in $1,200 a month apartments, $1,400 a month apartments, and if that's how much you're paying for rent, then that means that's how much you're going to be paying for a mortgage. But let that be a mortgage on, even if it's a 2 unit, a 3 unit, 4 unit, where you're living in one and renting the rest of them.
Right. You're in position now. And you have community banks like United Bank that are waiting for you to walk in prepared. And I know some of the homies that are listening, you're listening because you're trying to break generational curses in your family. You're listening. You're only still at this point in the podcast because you care about making a change and you wanted to learn something. And so the fact that you made it to this part in the podcast means that you can set up that plan. You can save your tax money, continue paying down your bills,
right,
and then get into a position where you can go in and go ahead and buy your first multi-unit property and not just continue to read about what other people are doing.
Now, when I say $1,400 for an apartment, I'm talking about Chicago, because I know that's not going to be the case in New York City or something like that. But my whole point is, whatever you're paying in rent, that means generally you can afford the exact same thing for a mortgage.
You mentioned something, I think you showed it to me when you were talking about team, right? And putting your team together and kind of the formula that you guys have utilized to be successful. And it's crazy because it's still relative in all aspects of business. So maybe it's probably been 2 years now, we did a home owner workshop. So where we brought in every component of this process. So we had a realtor, we had a real estate attorney, we had an insurance person, we had all these people, title company, all these people, because I need you to understand what all goes into this process, because it's a lot, right? Mm-hmm. And while I know a little bit about everything, I'm not an expert in either area, right? So that's why you have those professionals in place, and that's why this works for you guys. And it's the same concept for anyone that has the aspirations of acquiring property. We try to put you in a position with a group of people or a team that will make that dream a reality. Everything is about education.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, so you know what? I got a question for you. Mm-hmm. We have a motto around here. It's called Dream, Plan, Execute. So can you give us a moment in your life, something that you dreamed of, something that you then went and wrote a plan out to do, and the actions that you took to execute that? What was your dream, plan, execute moment? So
I've already shared the uncle story, but it's not one particular thing. It's just a mindset, and there are very few that are going to outwork me, right? And that's the mentality of it all. I want more, not just for myself. I want more for my community. I want more for my people. I want to educate as many people as I possibly can on the things that are relative to us being successful. Mm-hmm. And the plan is to do it every day. The plan is to, it's always how can I be more effective? How can I touch more people? And we talk about you guys too. So, we just said before we started about, the way podcasts are impacting society. Right. So what does that do for you? That gives you a bigger audience. That gives you more people that would not have heard from you guys in regards to the success that you're having or the model that you're creating. So every day it's about getting out there and being as impactful as I possibly can, and that's kind of what the motivation is or the push, because we can be better. It's always opportunity. It's always somebody in need, and that's ongoing. So
right. No, totally understand that. Right. I mean, I do feel like we talk about dream, plan, execute every day, mm-hmm. and it's in every aspect. Sometimes I'm dreaming about, just being a little bit more muscular than I was before. What's the plan on that? Okay, I need to write out a plan for my diet and exercise so that I can, execute on being, summertime ready.
Right.
I think that servant leadership, is what you are pretty much laying out there, mm-hmm. because when you have a value add to people, and as you lead, that makes people gravitate towards you, and I know that we've seen that in our lives,
right?
And that's what this podcast is about, also. Right. Giving a value add to all of the, the homies that are listening.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I concur.
So many similarities in mindset and, as you say, plan. And like I say, other than the times that we've talked, I don't know what the goal is, but as we've conversed, it's crazy how there's so many similarities and how it ties in together, right?
Hey, absolutely. Hey, my pops always said, birds of a feather flock together.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So who are you flocking with?
Surround yourself with like-minded people.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
All right, so I got a question for you. Mm-hmm. This is right off the top of your head. All right, off the top of your head.
All right.
What does homecoming mean to you?
The opportunity to go back to where it started. That's the first thing that comes to mind, right? The opportunity to showcase, the journey, right? So if I come back, now I'll go back to the school part. If I come back, I'm telling you what this past year was like. you know, and I'm putting that on display. I'm giving you, you know, we're supposed to, life teaches us. Sometimes we just have to listen. So if a lot of the struggles that I've been through or the things that I've learned, when we're giving information, I want you to learn from my mistakes, from my errors, from the things that work too. So if I found an avenue or a process that's beneficial for you, why would I not tell you? So going back to where it all started and never forgetting where you started from. That's what homecoming. That's what comes to mind.
All right, no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
I feel that. So, you know what? Why don't you reach back into the history books?
Oh, man.
You know, dig in the crates a little bit, and you tell us something, you know, awkward, interesting, something that sticks out in your mind as far as something that happened, like a homecoming memory.
So, all right. I'll tell this. No, it's all good. I'll tell it. So,
Look at his face.
just staying humble. I guess I'll start with that because when I was my first branch at Charter One, and I was talking to a customer, things were going well. We hitting goals on top of the world, right? Bonus money, all this stuff. And I had this lady. Well, no, let me not say that. I had a customer, and I'm talking to the customer, and simple. I just remember, I don't even know what it was, but it was simple, and the customer was happy, and I was like, well, yes, sir.
Oh.
Wait.
So, say yes, sir.
You called
Yes,
her
sir.
sir?
Yeah.
Called her
it's
her,
yes, sir.
sir?
It's yes, sir, right? And I think I said it twice, and the second time, she took her hat, because she had a hat on. She took her hat off, and that's when I, based upon the facial features, I realized it was a female.
Oof.
And
Oh, you didn't know you were talking to a woman?
no, I didn't. Right, because no, y'all just gonna keep laughing. So it was a young lady, and she was a cancer survivor, so she had clean hair.
Oh, wow.
Right, and so she
That's
took her
a
hat
concern.
off. Yeah, no, it's good though. It's good because she took the hat off, and I realized that you felt like you were, the size of an ant.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, it's okay. I get that sometimes. I said, well, I told her now when you take the hat off, that's a little different because I see the facial features. And I was like, well, and then we start talking about her journey.
Oh, okay.
So now it's gotten personal.
Right.
And that customer, she was with me. She followed me from branch to branch. She's like, Herrin, wherever you go, that's where I'm going.
Did she beat cancer?
She did. And
Oh,
last
man.
time I talked to her,
That's
she beat it
awesome.
because she was done with all her chemo and all her stuff.
That's awesome.
And it was awesome. So it just, you never assume. That's what
Never assume.
That's what I took from
That
that.
is
And
the
it
lesson.
It was, and that has followed me through the course of this. And like I say, it worked out because, like I said, I met an amazing young lady, and like I said, just something I'll never forget. It keeps you humble sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Man, that was a great homecoming story.
I know, right?
That was a great homecoming story. All right. Okay, so all right, so we moved to the part in the show where we're all about giving back to the communities that we come from and supporting causes that make our world better. So can you give us a homecoming cause or charitable organization that you want people to support?
That's easy. So my other full part-time job is I'm on the board and an instructor for Strengthening a Nation. It is a nonprofit that focuses on youth empowerment. We currently teach financial literacy, entrepreneurship. We have a 24-week course that empowers them and gives them information and teaches them. We just had a group that learned how to calculate cost and present it. They know how to give 30-second commercials that brand themselves, and they had to create a product. And it's truly unbelievable how much you can mold these young minds. And we target 8 to 15-year-olds because we try to catch them, early on, to try to get in front of any bad stuff that's out there and try to set them on a path that is conducive to them being successful in life. So my nonprofit and my cause will be Strengthening a Nation because I live it every Monday night at Beverly Library in the Hayes Park, and we take a lot of pride in that too. And the bank supports that too, so it's always a win.
And we talked about that when we were at the Chesterfield. So we need to set up a day for us to come out there and talk to the students.
Wonderful.
I mean,
wonderful.
I definitely want, just to lay, tell them our homecoming story, right? And maybe that'll inspire them too as they're building their skill set there.
We love real life examples. Like you guys are an entity that speaks for itself, and as you started off by, where'd you come from and all that kind of stuff and how it started and the evolution of it and everything that everyone goes through to, the roads are different. Sometimes the goal is to get here, but I could have went one road, you could have went on 10 roads. It doesn't matter as long as we get cross that finish line, and that's really what it's about.
Right.
Oh, by the way, I just want to, when you were talking about the woman with cancer, how she beat it and whatnot, I just want to give a shout out to Platinum. He owns Iridium downtown, and he just had a successful surgery to remove, cancer. He had mouth cancer, and I just saw him on Instagram talking about it. Man, it was just a blessing.
Yeah, shout out to Platinum, man. We are so happy for you, brother. Awesome. God is good.
He's one of our Bahamian brothers too. Like we're Bahamian, and he is as well. And that's how part of the reason that we met each other. So, shout out to Platinum.
All right.
Awesome.
All right. So we always have something every episode for our guests.
Here, man.
Hey, I did not realize he already got the shirt.
All right, dream, plan, execute right there.
Awesome.
Yeah, just so you got that reminder.
Awesome.
You know what I'm saying?
You
got that
are
reminder.
a homecoming alumni now.
All right. It's official. It's official. That's awesome.
All right, cool. So, what does it take us to now? It takes us to...
What, the after set?
I don't have any more stories for you.
No more stories.
It's crazy because when you told us, I guess this was off screen and whatnot, off stage, that you went to Illinois State, which is down the street from U of I in Champaign, where we went to school. So, I mean, I was thinking about like all these homecoming stories just from the fact that we used to come over there. Our younger brother, he graduated with his bachelor's and his master's from Illinois State.
Wow.
So it's like, we were neighbors at the time.
I told you, about it. The roads are crazy, man, and you just never know. As big as this place is, it can get real small. City of Chicago, that is.
All right. So we made it to the end of the episode, and we close it out with Anthony's after set, and the after set. The after set happens after the event, after the party. You sitting there with all of your friends, especially when it's a homecoming type of situation, and you haven't seen people in a long time, and you may not see them for a while, and so you just want to lead them with some parting words of encouragement, or just drop some jewelry on them and say, hey, this is what I want to leave you guys with. And today I want to encourage people to keep it moving. And the reason why I say keep it moving is because when you start the process of trying to better yourself, you don't better yourself by staying in place. You better yourself by keeping it moving forward. And it's not like you forget where you came from or forget what's in the rearview mirror. It's just the fact that you have to keep moving towards your goals. We talk about dream, plan, execute all the time, and dream, plan, execute is us moving forward towards what we want to do with our lives, which is, in our case, buy more property, impact the communities that we're in, be transformational and not just transactional in the endeavors that we participate in. And so I'm encouraging all the homies out there to keep it moving away from negative people, keep it moving away from negative situations, and keep it moving towards people that are going to open doors and create opportunities for you. Sometimes you have to have a change of scenery, and the only way to have a change of scenery and get to what you want is to keep it moving. And I'll leave you guys with that. Thank you for tuning in again. This is Homecoming with the Downland Brothers. Wait. You know what? We're not done closing this out.
I know. Hey, we need Herrin to let everybody know how they can reach him.
That's right, Herrin. How can they reach you?
Sure. So United Fidelity Bank, 1701 West 87th Street, UnitedFidelity.com, 773-881-6800.
All right. So, hey, get in touch. This is Herrin Malon, the president of the bank of United Bank, and he is inviting you to come to his bank if you're trying to buy a home, if you're trying to buy a car, if you're trying to consolidate your debt, if you're trying to get your credit right. It's the community bank. And he's there waiting for you. Thanks again for coming and hanging out with us on Homecoming with the Downing Brothers.
And for y'all that just heard him, or watching this on YouTube, you saw he got a nice swag just now, this Dream Plan Execute shirt. If you want one, come to our website, thedowningBrothers.com. In the merchandise section, we have a whole bunch of T-shirts there waiting on you.
Oh, yeah.
Or sweatshirts.
All types of stuff. All types of stuff. Thank you again. We appreciate you guys tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in to Homecoming with the Downing Brothers podcast. For more information on how to dream, plan, execute in real estate, business, and financial literacy, visit www.thedowningbrothers.com.